Hello everyone, good morning. It is Makeda Valletta and I am live on my IG page, Makeda Valletta Travels. I will save this and repost it to my YouTube page, so make sure you follow me in both places. In case you're unfamiliar with me, I am a native New Yorker who resides in Chicago, and I travel often in the country and out of the country. And on this page, I just like to talk about different travel stuff, okay? Different things related to travel. And so today I want to talk about flying safety and DCA, Ronald Reagan Airport in DC. This video won't be long, but you know, it's unfortunate. Of course, at this point, everybody knows about the accident that happened at DCA last week, which is really sad and really unfortunate. And it reminded me, you know, there's been a lot of debates about why this happened. First, some people were like, why would military aircraft be flying around through commercial airspace? But if you have been looking for an answer, you should also know by now that that happens all the time in the DC area. They were practicing, apparently they were practicing, they were doing a drill for quick evacuation of the White House in case of an emergency. And apparently the aircraft flies through commercial airspace in DC all the time. Now, what I didn't know was that DCA is the most congested airport in the country, okay? Because it's a very small airport. For those of you who don't know the DC area, there are 3 airports associated with Washington, DC. There's BWI that is in Baltimore, like it's in Maryland, closer to Baltimore. It's about a 45-minute drive from the city, depending on where you're coming from and time of day. You have Dulles, which is deeper in Virginia, which, depending on where you're coming from in DC, can also be like a 40-minute drive, depending on where you're coming from and the time of day. And then you have DCA, which is Reagan. And that is the closest to the city. It's very close. One of my good friends who lives in does he live in Northeast or Northwest? I can't remember. One of my good friends who lives in DC, it's like 12 minutes to drive to DCA, so it's very convenient. However, the airport is very small. It's like the size of a bus station, okay? You feel like you're at a Greyhound station. It's a very small, old, rinky-dink airport. Apparently, the FAA tried to tell the airlines that, you know, they couldn't accommodate all the flights that were being sent to DCA because airlines have been fighting to have more routes to DCA because, of course, people want to fly to DCA because it is so close to the city. And so apparently there was that issue. Now, I remember back in, I think, October, I flew to DCA because DC is like a second home. I'm in DC several times a year. Now, when I used to live in New York, I took the bus to DC. Now that I live in Chicago, I often fly to DC. And when I fly to DC, I always fly into DCA if I can. That's always my preferred airport. And in October, I flew into DCA. Well, I was supposed to fly into DCA. And I remember our flight got diverted to Dulles, IAD, because they said that there were no air traffic controllers that could land our plane. And I remember finding that very strange. I'm like, I travel a lot, okay? This is probably in my life the least that I've been on planes, but my whole adult life, I've been on planes, several planes every single month, right? Every single month of my adult life on planes. And I've never heard a plane not being able to land and being diverted to another airport because they don't have air traffic controllers to land the plane. So that came up in my mind of like, oh my goodness. So when I started learning about how overly congested that airport is and how there had also been a plane crash at that same airport in 1983. In 1986, I think it was 1986. Oh yeah, someone said locals are not surprised. Way too busy airspace and getting worse until this. Yeah. See, I never knew that. Now when I go to DC, I feel like I want to avoid DCA. I saw that some pilots reject flights to DCA because of how it's dangerous, okay? Now, independent of DCA, there's been, I'm just going to say that night that my plane got diverted, I was really irritated because, like, it's one thing if it was diverted because it was something dangerous or weather condition, but because there was no air traffic controllers, it was crazy to me. And I had a friend picking me up at DCA. So getting sent to Dulles, that was like way out the way. If I would have had to take an Uber, it would have cost so much money. Luckily, my friend came to get me, but that was a real inconvenience. And to me, that was just not a minor thing. So, and then in the news, in the past few months, there's been a lot of near misses with planes. I don't know if you saw, like, I think it was in December, a plane carrying a male basketball team almost had a mid-air collision with another plane. So there's been a lot of reports of that lately. And so when Donald Trump blamed this on DEI, and then you had people talking about how he had just cut, Elon Musk had just gotten rid of the head of air safety or something, the FAA, and Donald Trump made cuts and some people got fired. So some people were pointing the finger at that. Apparently, and then they say there was one person doing the job of two that night, or two people doing the job of four. So usually there's one air traffic controller for the helicopters and one for the plane. And there was one person doing both of those jobs, so the person was overworked. They also say that they let one of the air traffic controllers go early, okay, that they left 30 minutes early, so they left work early. Another thing I'm going to say, and I've done this in videos before in the past. Can you guys still hear me? Looks like my mic went off. Let me know if you guys heard me the whole time. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Because my mic is off, so I don't know if you guys hear me or not. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Oh, the accident was in 1982. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay, a 1. So you can hear me. Okay. Okay, well, that's weird. My mic. Okay, let me see. Okay. If you guys can't hear me at any point, please tell me. But I made videos in the past about DC and how I feel like that city is incompetent. Okay. I have said this. I've been saying this for years. Okay. I feel like there's a lot of incompetency when it comes to Washington, DC. Okay. First of all, you see with January 6th, how they just allow people to bum rush the Capitol. That would never have happened in New York. If they tried to bum rush the United Nations, the NYPD, the people that protect New York would never allow that. Now, people think, oh, DC has the CIA and the FBI and the Secret Service and this and that. People think it's so heavily surveilled, but really, it's not. The police in DC don't do anything, and they have all this bureaucracy that they don't get anything done. It's a very incompetent city. When it snows in DC, I've seen it get a few inches of snow and the city is shut down, the whole surrounding area for weeks. It's like, for what? It's a small area. Shovel the snow and keep it moving. I remember Obama's first inauguration in 2008. Everybody from New York complained about how DC was not prepared to deal with a crowd. They knew they were having all these people come into their city, and they still had trains leaving once an hour. So it wasn't... They didn't think about the fact that you have all these people. You need to have more trains. Or it was cold. There was no businesses open. No place to use the bathroom. No place to get food. Now, if that was New York and they knew they had all those people coming for such a major event, people would be making money. People would be outside selling hand warmers, something hot to drink, bathroom, businesses would be open because they know it's a moneymaker. But DC, there's a very lazy, inefficient energy there. And there's been an issue with air traffic controllers, but the fact that I can remember, finding out that DCA is the most congested airport, it's a small airport that was never meant for all those planes, and then to know that I flew there in October and my flight got diverted because there was no air traffic controllers, and I've never experienced that before. And to know that the night that accident happened, they didn't have enough people working. It's like, come on, DC. Like, what is it? I don't understand that. Somebody said, love it here, but facts. It's a poorly run area, both feds and local government. Yes. See, the thing is, me being from New York City, my bar is high when it comes to a city being a boss city, right? New York City, people can say whatever they want about New York City, and it is the most expensive city in the country, okay? But New York City handles things like a boss. Even if you see these recent indictments of all these, like Trump, I mean, not Trump, yeah, well, Trump, but he got off. I mean, he didn't get punished. I meant to say Diddy and Weinstein and the people from Abercrombie and Finch and R. Kelly. You see how New York, LA, other cities could have gone after them, but New York went after all of them, handled it. 9/11, New York dealt with it beautifully. There wasn't looting and mass chaos and car accidents all over the highway and people being stuck places, even though that was a chaotic day. New York handled 9/11 beautifully. I don't think any other city could have done that. We had a blackout, I think, in 2003. And people weren't, looting and going crazy in the city. They get everybody off the train, everybody off the stuck elevators very efficiently. Okay. Yeah, so somebody said, most countries, the elite and best and brightest are in the capital, not in the USA. Yeah, no. I do think some of the best and brightest are just people who are efficient and know how to handle things like a boss. New York has that bar set high. Me living in Chicago now, Illinois is like the most corrupt state. Like, politics are corrupt a lot of places, but Chicago is #1 city, Illinois #1 state. They have so many aldermen, like 100 something of them, that going to prison. I don't know if you see this mayor in Dalton, Illinois, which is a suburb right next to the south side. This woman, Tiffany Haynard, if you don't know who she is, look her up on YouTube. You will be shocked. Her dressing up like Nino Brown at her meetings, playing Bitch Better Have My Money. There was a huge fight at a town hall meeting last week with this woman. Like, she's crazy, okay? And it's just pure corruption. So Chicago has a lot of corruption. Not to say that New York doesn't. You see New York City mayor is in trouble right now for some corruption stuff. But, so I'm not saying there's no corruption, but New York is a lot more efficient with handling things. So yeah, now other than that, like, we have seen a lot of things lately with planes and issues. There's been more of that than usual. But I just want to remind people that planes are still the safest way to travel. They still crash way less than cars, okay? If you think about the thousands of flights that take off every single day, just in America, let alone around the world, okay? Every single airport in every state, all these cities, have planes flying everywhere, nationally, internationally. And when we're in the sky, we don't even see other planes. It's like, when you're driving on the highway, you see other cars. When you're on a flight, you don't see other planes, So the thing about the amount of flights that take off and land every day, and the amount of accidents that happen, it is a very small percentage. Oh yeah, another thing, talking about New York City efficiency, but it's a different situation. But remember that pilot Sully, who landed the plane in the Hudson River? Now, granted, he wasn't hit by anything, but he landed it beautifully in the Hudson River, okay? Not to say that there hasn't been, but there's also the two last worst aviation crashes were both with American Airlines and both in New York. You had Flight 587 that was flying from New York to Dominican Republic in 2001, I think October. 200 and something people passed away. Most of those people lived in my neighborhood, Washington Heights, which is a heavily Dominican area, Washington Heights in the Bronx. And then you had September 11th, 2011, also an American Airlines flight. So I find it interesting that all these crashes are American Airlines, okay? Because the flight in DC was American Airlines. That's another thing. And it was 1982 when there was also a crash at Reagan. And Reagan had, at that time, fired a bunch of air traffic controllers when that happened. And the skating team, and it's crazy because that figure skating, all those figure skaters that passed away, I was watching that competition on Saturday. Okay, I was at a friend's house. I like to watch figure skating. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, let me watch it. And I was actually watching that, so it's really crazy. But, and I went to the University of Delaware for undergrad. The University of Delaware trains Olympic figure skaters. Figure skating science was a sub-minor in my minor. I was an exercise and sports science major. And figure skating science was a concentration. We had a figure skating rink on the University of Delaware campus where elite figure skaters trained. So some of those skaters and coaches, like I think a coach and a couple skaters came from the University of Delaware. And it's sad because a lot of them also came from Boston and Philly. And the ones that came from Philly, a bunch of them came from Philly And then we know a plane crashed in a mall in Philly. It was only like 20 minutes away from that ice skating school. So I'm like, that had to be super triggering for them to lose a bunch of athletes and parents in a crash in DC. And then a couple days later, there's a crash in their city, not far from the studio. That's, the chances of that is insane. Okay, and then also, I was gonna say something else and I forgot. The ice skating school in Boston. Another crazy coincidence is that the whole U.S. world figure skating team got wiped out on a plane crash in 1961 in Belgium. The whole team. And several of those athletes were from the Skating Club of Boston, which this time lost 2 coaches, two mothers, and 2 athletes. The Skating Club of Boston. So it's crazy to have a coincidence where your skating school that trains elite skaters had a bunch of athletes die in 2 different accidents. It's crazy that a U.S. team would get into 2 different accidents. It's crazy that Ronald Reagan has had 2 different accidents. Like, when planes don't crash that much, you have that many coincidences, that's crazy, right? Well, Sully was a bird strike, so what does that mean? A bird hit the plane? Is that what that means? But yeah, so of course I will still be flying, but I don't have good feelings about what's going on right now. And then Trump blaming it on DEI. Of course, I never really knew exactly what DEI was. I made assumptions, but it does seem from the research I could tell, because I don't like Trump, but I'm going to say I'm not unhappy with every single thing he's doing. I want to talk about the immigration situation, but I'm going to do it. I think I want to do a video on immigration on my other page, the Renaissance Amazon, but I also might do it on this page too, because the Renaissance Amazon, I talk about social issues and stuff like that, and I did do a video the other day, but I want to get more into that, so I might post it here too, but definitely follow my other page, the Renaissance Amazon. So I'm not completely against, even though I did not vote for Trump, but there are certain things that I'm not, like, and we know he's a liar with a lot of things, but at the same time, like, I take each thing a person does and says and evaluate it fairly. And it does seem that with the DEI, that the air traffic control did have written down that they would hire mentally retarded or mentally challenged people. And so if that is true, then that would be an issue, so who knows if that played a role, or if it's simply just that the air traffic controllers are overworked, or both, but I feel like there was negligence. The other thing is that Black Hawk can be controlled by remote control from 300 miles away. So other thing is, like, do we know for a fact that somebody didn't take control over the Black Hawk and make them be flying too high? Or was it just air traffic control being overworked and making a mistake? But just know that DCA is a dangerous airport to fly in and out of. It's over-congested, and there's always military helicopters flying through that airspace, okay? Okay, you said it's the E making folks crazy. Diversity and inclusion, not really that new or controversial. Trying to get to equity is what's spinning folks up. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that in particular? That you need to investigate everything could be an attack on us. Yeah, I thought about that too. That's why I'm saying, like, that Black Hawk helicopter can be controlled by remote. So how do we know somebody didn't hack into systems and take control over the plane? We have lots of terrorist threats to us right now, especially with Trump being president. But even independent of Trump being president, but I think maybe more so. So I thought about that too. Like, who knows? Like, if that Black Hawk can be controlled by remote control from a distance, who's to say somebody didn't hack into the system? I mean, the Chinese themselves just hacked into our systems like last month or something like that. So yeah. So I guess we'll see. But I'm gonna end this video with that. I have to decide what I'm gonna do next time I fly to DC, because DCA is so convenient. And still plenty of planes take off and land at DCA with no problem, but just because of the past experience I had and what happened, I'm like, I don't know. Okay, Ed, you wrote goals and soft targets, not a threat to status quo or white folks. Start putting numbers on things, and that's when rubber hits the road. DCA is ultra convenient. Yeah, well, I'm not 100% sure what you're saying, but I just know that how this DEI is defined, okay? My remote keeps going off, but it seems like you guys can still hear me, right? I'm trying to use the remote because I feel like that's, I mean, not remote, a mic, because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. But my mic keeps going off. Can you guys still hear me? If you can still hear me, just write yes or write 1. If you can still hear me, put a 1. I'm assuming you guys can still hear me because nobody told me they couldn't. But just put a 1 if you can. That's when it... Okay, thank you. You can hear me. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to end this video. I will be doing videos on my page, The Body Scientist 81, talking about food and how, well, you see Trump has rolled back the tariffs on Mexico and Canada for a month. But I was going to do a video about that. People talk about food prices, and to me, the solution is going to local farms, which is what I've been doing. So I was going to go into depth about that. I'm also going to talk about Trump withdrawing from WHO and RFK Jr. All my opinions on that on my other page, The Body Scientist 81. So on YouTube, be sure to follow me at The Body Scientist. On Instagram, be sure to follow me at the_body_scientist_81. No, sorry. On Instagram, it's the_body_scientist. That's my page on Instagram. On YouTube, it's The Body Scientist 81. So I'll be doing a video there and also on the Renaissance Amazon. So all those, I have 3 pages, 3 YouTube channels, 3 Instagram pages. And so I'll be doing videos on different topics. So if you want to listen to that, because those of you who don't know, I am an exercise physiologist, strength and conditioning coach, nutritionist, sports nutritionist, medical cannabis advocate. So I'm really much into health and health systems. So I have a lot to say about that. Okay. So anyhow, hope you guys have a good day. Travel safe, especially if you're driving, because cars crash all day, every day. Don't take life for granted. And I'm going to be doing some cool road trips this year. Okay, I'm going to do a road trip a few different places. I'm going to go through some parts of the country I haven't been to, and I'll be reporting. Because being from the East Coast, you don't usually think about all the cities in the middle of the country. Louisville, Kentucky, and Nashville, and Indianapolis, and Oklahoma City, you know. But I'm going to be exploring more of the middle of the country and reporting back to you guys about that. Also, Canada, Toronto, and Montreal. So all that stuff is coming up. But have a good day, people, and take care of yourselves. Catch me on my other pages. Okay, bye.